Amy Winehouse was found dead by her bodyguard in her room. She was only 27 years old, which is why people included her in the infamous 27 Club, where artists like Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, Janis Joplin, and Jim Morrison, among others, are joined by having in common that they lived tumultuous lives and ended their existence with a tragic end at 27 years old. Many remember her last concerts where alcohol and drugs dominated Amy and made her uncontrollable, giving a worrying and sad image. Today we are going to tell you the reasons that led this star to be the white voice of soul. First to worldwide fame and then to a desolate outcome. But before we start, please leave a like if you haven't done so yet, subscribe and turn on notifications, because you will find many similar videos on this channel that may interest you. In addition to that, I invite you to leave a comment below, either about this video or with suggestions for future videos. Now let's get started. Amy Winehouse was born on September 14, 1983. She was the daughter of Michelle and Janis, a taxi driver and a pharmacist. They all formed a lower middle-class Jewish family along with Alex, her older brother. She spent her childhood in the suburbs of Southgate in North London. From a young age, Michelle would sing Frank Sinatra songs to her daughter. They were fans of soul and jazz. When Amy turned 9, her parents divorced after Janis found out that her husband was cheating on her with his co-worker. However, the separation was on good terms. There were no major problems. It was then that she was enrolled in Susie Ernst's drama school on the recommendation of her grandmother Cynthia. There she studied acting for 3 years. Her grandmother was one of the family figures who instilled in her a love for music. She had been a singer and girlfriend of jazz legend Ronnie Scott. The granddaughter and grandmother had a very strong bond, and it is supposed that she was the person from whom Amy received the most love and attention in her short life. Amy showed talent as a dancer, but at the same time had something very clear. She wanted to succeed as a singer. At 10 years old, she founded a rap band called Sweet and Sour, but later she would comment that she was not very proud of this. At 13 years old, Amy attended another theatre school, Sylvia Young's, but was expelled a few years later for not being diligent and for showing up with a nose piercing. Regardless, these random years of training at theatre schools allowed her to gain experience on stage. It was at 13 years old when she received her first guitar and gradually began to compose. Her brother Alex was the one who taught her to play it, and from whom she also received support. Years later, she formed a female jazz band and performed in small London bars. It could be said that at 16 years old was when Amy's career as a singer officially began. Her boyfriend at the time, Tyler James, handed a demo to manager Nick Godwin, who after analyzing it did not hesitate to arrange an audition and knew at that moment that it was pure gold. At last, Amy was discovered and heard. The manager affirmed it was incredible. She knew the old school in hip-hop well, she was plump, had strength, and a unique style. In addition, she had a plus, the experience on stage, and with her tattoos and her provocative way of moving in front of the public formed an explosive combo. With the new manager, she started traveling to Miami, where she met producer Salem Remy, who had worked with the Fugees and Lisa Lopez, and other well-known rap and hip-hop groups. Amy recorded in Remy's studios and in record time. Thanks to her impeccable voice and ear, her tuning and professionalism, she finished her debut album. She never sang off-key and kept the timing with precision, so there was no need to repeat. The Takes, thus was born Frank, her first album in honor of Frank Sinatra. It had jazz influences, and except for 2 covers, all the songs were co-written by Winehouse. It was a platinum record, nominated for the Mercury Music Awards and winner of an Ivor Novello Award in 2004 thanks to the single Stronger Than Me. Her voice was compared to that of Sarah Vaughan and Macy Gray. With the royalties from this success, the first thing Amy did was buy a flat in the neighborhood she liked, Camden, in New York. She was 20 years old and fame was already inside that new house. A new party companion began to be known, Blake Fielder Siebel, who would later become the love of her life. Amy shared the flat with her first boyfriend Tyler, but she was losing her mind over Blake. In these years, the young singer excessively approached the night, alcohol and drugs. She had a special personality. In interviews she claimed, "I need to have problems to feel my creative strength." In the face of episodes of anorexia and bulimia, excessive alcohol at night, and outings to dangerous night spots in New York, her manager, Nate Godwin, alerted the singer's parents to the risk she was running if she did not distance herself from her disordered lifestyle. From then on, Amy wouldn't let anyone help her and completely denied having these types of problems. In that context, the paparazzi fed off her public behavior, her appearances with Blake, and her misfortune. In 2006, Amy returns to the studio to record her second album, Back to Black. Her appearance was not the same as it was 3 years ago. Her face was gaunt and she had dropped 6 sizes, but the content of the songs on her new album was filled with charisma and talent. All the experiences of excesses with drugs and alcohol were reflected in dark lyrics filled with internal demons. With 10 songs composed by Amy, Back to Black reached #1 in the UK and allowed her to win a Brit Award in the category of Best British Artist. In June of 2007, she was nominated for the Mercury Prize for the same album, reaching platinum in the United States. And as the cherry on top, she received 3 nominations for the Music Television Video Music Award in 2007. Her second album had been a complete success. Mark Ronson's production gave the songs a soulful air with all the advancements of the new century, placing their singer at the top of all the charts. The album sold over 20 million copies worldwide. The song that had the most exposure was Rehab, in which the singer says no, no, no to her admission to rehabilitation. But it was evident that something was not right with Amy. Anyone who stopped to listen to her second work could have reflected her cynical view of emotional relationships and her immersion in the dark world of drugs and alcohol. The singer's public presence and her unfiltered behavior made her decadent state evident. At the Q Music Magazine Awards, Amy interrupted Utwo's singer Bono and told him, "Shut up, I don't give a damn what you say." Her image to others transparently showed an artist in flames. It was said that it was normal for her concerts to have 47 bottles of whiskey. An undeniable fact given the images and the staging of young Amy where she could barely move. In May 2007, Amy married Blake in Miami. For her father Mitchell, Blake was always to blame for Amy's addictions and excesses. The imprisonment of her new husband for assault and contempt of authority did not make things easier. To all this was added the death of her beloved grandmother. All these misfortunes that happened one after another in Amy's environment complicated her life and made her lose even more the little control she had at that time. This is how a series of embarrassing live performances began. Amy was transparent, she always had been. In January of 2007, she appeared on the stage of the G.I. Joe. She was absolutely drunk at the party and ended her first song with a vomit. Her appearances from then on were bait for the paparazzi and of a self-destructive nature for herself. But she was trying to recover, to rehabilitate herself. The night she won 5 Grammys, Best Pop Vocal Album, Best Female Vocal Performance, Best New Artist, Best Song of the Year for Rehab and Best Album, she was going through one of her detox periods and was present via satellite from London as the United States had not granted her a visa. And the Grammy goes to Amy Winehouse. During her summer concerts at Rock in Rio, she was already visibly affected. In the following recitals, she would spend several minutes not singing, petrified on stage with a lost look, and when she sang, she did so out of tune. Despite her efforts to meet her obligations to her fans, her condition consistently caused her to make mistakes. What would happen if she was going to finish the show or if she was going to faint on stage? Amy regularly wandered around her concerts among the absent musicians without singing. Even the backup singers came to her rescue in case of a stumble or a sudden fainting due to the state of drunkenness with which she presented herself on stage. She mumbled, rubbed her eyes, was distressed. She was not aware that her clothing was disheveled. It was truly sad to see her this way. The audience, for their part, booed and whistled when they realized that she was giving a concert in those conditions again. One of her worst performances was the Belgrade show in Serbia on June 18, 2011, where she practically had no awareness of what she was doing. Amy dreamed of having 5 children, but they would never come. Her relationship with Blake deteriorated more and more until they divorced in 2009. Drugs, alcohol, her eating disorders, and her pulmonary emphysema. They brought Amy to a ledge from which there was no turning back. Little by little, not only her career but also her life was fading away. The treatments were failing, the singer was moving away from drugs but returning to alcohol. In July 2011, she wanted to record an album again, but the producers no longer trusted her due to her stage at the time, given the staging of the last concerts. The Belgrade fiasco had marked the end of her career. Amy made her last attempts to quit drugs. The people around her noticed her more focused and eager to get out of that darkness that had been stalking her for a long time. The relapses no longer alarmed them. Amy's last days were spent just like the previous 4 years. Her new partner was Rex Travis, a film director with whom Amy barely projected her desire to have a family. Rex presented himself as a down-to-earth, cultured, and decent man. It was just what the singer needed after the breakup with Blake. But as her single said, love is a losing game. It was known that Reg was maintaining a parallel relationship with a famous stripper. The filmmaker abandoned her a few months before her death. The day before her death, Amy unexpectedly went to her mother's house. Her mother found her incoherent and gone, but she had already normalized this state in her daughter, so she didn't give it significance, dependence. Her doctor had also visited her, who noticed she was intoxicated, but she wasn't too worried either. They discussed her third album project and the excitement of planning for the future. And with all that, she calmed down. At that time, she was single. Her childhood friends were no longer close. Her parents completely denied what was happening. Her producers and musicians had drifted away. That night of July 22, 2011, even the paparazzi had abandoned her. Amy Winehouse was completely alone. Excesses were her only company for years, and they were the ones that took her away from her dreams, her loved ones, and even from herself. The last person to say goodbye to Amy was her bodyguard around midnight. At 3 in the morning on the 23rd, Amy sent a text message to a friend saying, "I'll be here forever, and you?" Around 10 in the morning, the bodyguard approached her door and heard silence, but he wasn't surprised. 2 hours prior, she remained in her room. He also didn't find it strange when he repeated the motion at noon, but around 3 in the afternoon, when he saw that she wasn't waking up, the bodyguard forcefully entered her room, and there he realized that she had been dead for several hours. The scene in the room was a common occurrence. There were 3 empty vodka bottles next to the bed. Then the toxicology test showed that there were no traces of drugs in his blood, but there was a large amount of alcohol. 4.16 grams per liter of blood. For reference, the limit for alcohol coma is 3.5. No one showed too much surprise. Amy seemed lifeless in her last public appearances. She even had imprinted in one of her singles the motto, "I died hundreds of times." After her death, she was recognized for her short career as an artist. She was included at number 26 on VH1's 100 Greatest Women in Music in 2012. Many artists like Lady Gaga, Anthony Hamilton, and John Legend highlight the artist's originality and her breakthrough in the music world, attributing to her the gift of revitalizing the medium and the genre with her voice and attitude. Her father Mitchell signed a contract with Hologram Bass Company in October 2018. Winehouse was recreated by combining the imitation of movements with the real sound of her voice. This world tour had a staging with the band playing live, recalling their best songs. The funds raised were donated to the Amy Winehouse Foundation, dedicated to helping many young people overcome their addictions. Amy Winehouse only managed to release 2 albums, but her combinations of jazz, R&B, soul, and ska generated as much talk as her scandalous private life. A life that ended too early due to her addictions. And that's the end of the video about the day Amy Winehouse died. I hope you found it interesting. I invite you to watch a lot of videos on this channel about other musicians who also had tragic deaths. Some of them also belong to the 27 Club and others don't, but I'm sure you'll find them interesting. I also invite you to leave a like below, subscribe if you haven't already, turn on notifications, and leave a comment. You can leave a recommendation for possible future videos. We will be reading everything you post. My name is Magnus Mephisto, and this was The Day That. Goodbye.